Apple has just announced its latest iteration of the iPad, this time offering Apple Pencil compatibility, which is the first device not named the iPad Pro to work with the Apple Pencil. So if you're interested in purchasing a new iPad Pro and you wanted to use the Apple Pencil with it, is it worth all of that extra cash for the Pro model, or is it worth saving some money and getting the newly announced 9.7-inch iPad? So the new iPad starts at $329 for 32 gigabytes and $429 for the 128 gig option, while the iPad Pro starts at $649 for the 64 gig base model, with a few different models of storage available that can put you close to $1,000. There's also the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which starts at $799 for the base model. For this video, we're going to focus on the new 9.7-inch base model iPad compared to the 10.5-inch base model iPad Pro. With the iPad Pro, aside from the display being slightly larger, it's also slightly better. The iPad Pro has a resolution of 2224 by 1668 compared to the iPad's 2048 by 1536, which will still make for a great looking display, but it's not going to be quite as vivid as the iPad Pro. The real difference comes with the lack of Apple's Pro Motion and True Tone features that are equipped in the iPad Pro models. True Tone being the display's ability to adjust its brightness and color temperature according to the lighting situations around you, and the Pro Motion technology gives it that buttery smooth feeling when scrolling and swiping throughout the UI. Other than the display and the lack of smart connector on the iPad, there won't be many visual differences between the Pro and the regular iPad models. The real differences lie within the internal hardware and overall performance. Now, I've spent quite a bit of time in the past with the iPad Pro, and it's hard for me to definitely say which model has better performance overall, since we have yet to really test the new iPad, but we can formulate some opinions based on the on-paper specs, and of course factoring in how we intend to use the iPad or the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro is very powerful and is powered by the A10X chip, which is a variant of the A10 chip that is slightly more powerful than the A10 Fusion, which is what we'll see in the iPhone 7, 7 Plus, and of course the newly announced 9.7-inch iPad. Couple that with the 4 gigs of RAM that's found on the Pro compared to the iPad's 2 gigabytes, and obviously on paper there's no doubt that the iPad Pro should be more powerful. But will this power translate in a real-world difference? If I had to guess, probably not. Most average consumers who want to purchase an iPad, and more specifically want to use it with an Apple Pencil, should probably just get the cheaper iPad. You will save a lot more money, and there probably won't be much of a performance difference for everyday tasks, like using an iPad for work or school, answering emails, Netflix, etc. If you're doing some intensive photo editing or graphic design with applications that would require more RAM and processing power, then the iPad Pro might be worth the extra money. But overall, I think opening up the Apple Pencil compatibility to the lower cost iPad makes it harder for me to justify something like the 10.5-inch iPad Pro if your use cases don't require that much power. I will mention that there are some noticeable differences within the cameras on each iPad too, and while I don't recommend people walking around taking pictures or videos with their iPads, the iPad Pro would certainly be the better option for this with its 12 megapixel f1.8 aperture, 4K video capabilities, and optical image stabilization. It's also worth pointing out that the front-facing camera on the iPad is only capable of taking 1.2 megapixel photos and 720p videos. The iPad Pro definitely wins here with 7 megapixel photos and 1080p video recording. Another side note, media consumption on both iPads will be an overall good experience, but the iPad Pro has 4-speaker audio, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and it's capable of some really great sound. The iPad has a more traditional stereo speaker setup at the bottom of the device, and so it's probably worth noting that the iPad Pro will have a better audio setup. We will know more in the next week when our iPad unit arrives and can experience firsthand exactly how well this low-cost iPad can perform and if there are any noticeable differences at all. Let us know which iPad you're thinking of picking up and what your main use cases are in the comments section down below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.